So, welcome to our second short story by Flannery O'Connor. I hope you're getting a flavor of her writing and enjoying her as much as many people have over the last many decades. Picking up with this new short story, or the next one, I should say, Good Country People. One of my favorite short stories. I hope you like it too. So we're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the Southern grotesque. That's different from Southern Gothic, and I believe some of us were talking about Southern Gothic in the class. Faulkner and some others who wrote in that vein. But the Southern grotesque is a little bit different. It's kind of related to that, but it's this tendency in Southern literature, many works of Southern literature, to focus on the odd, the unusual, the peculiar, the strange sorts of things that people make note of in Southern culture. Now, speaking of odd and unusual, I will tell you, those are not my relatives in that pickup truck makeshift swimming pool there. I just want to let you know that, though I have been known to run into a few gentlemen like that around the South. If you've lived in the South for a while, you know they're around. Not exactly the most cultured and refined fellows, but that's the subject of Southern literature frequently, especially comedic Southern literature, and it can often be sort of self-effacing and deal with identity in many ways. Okay, the Southern humor and identity is the subject matter a lot of the times. Frequently, there's a moral underpinning to Southern humor, even beginning all the way back to Twain. Some people say Twain's not a Southern writer. Well, sort of not. Yeah, it depends on how you classify him. But, even Twain had kind of a moralistic tinge to what he wrote. Listen, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn is quite a moral novel. People don't think so, but these days they think it is, because it has a lot of words that are offensive to people today. But it certainly drove home the stupidity and the cruelty of slavery. Even though it was after the Civil War, it made the point that human institutions are frequently based on hypocrisy, and people don't always follow social norms that are good social norms. We follow them just to follow them. Anyway, that's a whole different track. But O'Connor's at heart a novelist and short story writer who has very strong religious and moral views. She was a staunch believer, as we said, in the civil rights movement, which, by the way, I should mention that even for a white person in the Deep South in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, it was not terribly safe to be an outspoken civil rights proponent. Many white people were who took part in demonstrations and things ended up in jail or beaten or even worse, killed. There were some white demonstrators who were killed. So it wasn't a terribly safe position to have. You can imagine that if you live in a really, really staunchly segregationist town in the South, and you were outspoken as a white person in favor of civil rights and voting rights and things of this nature, you can be ostracized and alienated quite a bit, or even worse. So one of the things that she's very interested in is presenting characters who demonstrate what in the 1500s and 1600s they would say, the medieval and early Renaissance era would say that they were a comedy of humors. The idea that individual characters had certain personalities that were based on your humors or sort of the bodily fluids or what have you. You had a certain disposition. You remember in Revelation, Ruby talks about how it's important to have a good disposition. This notion that everybody has a particular personality or disposition. Some are phlegmatic and some are, have different kinds of personalities based on whatever's going on in their. In the medieval period, they thought whatever's going on inside your body, but that got dropped. But the idea that some people are, grumpy and some people are more gullible and some people are more soft-hearted and that sort of thing, and using names to sort of signifying these character traits of the person. So in this short story, we have, of course, Joy Holga. We'll get to this in a moment, but you get the idea, right? That names can sometimes be used to signify. Dickens did this a lot. He really loved it, using names to signify characters' traits and things. So again, to recap, there was this pattern in much of her writing where you have this flawed or injured character who exhibits no moral growth. Then that person has an encounter that violently shakes her or him out of that zone, right? So that this person is kind of a static person, just a static, unchanging personality, and then something violently intrudes into that person's life, and then we are left to ponder, and so is the character, the implications of that encounter or that violent event. Will the character change? Will the character grow? Frequently, it's left up in the air, okay? And this is a very similar story that does this as well. But there's shocking things she likes to add. And she wants to shock the reader as much as she wants to see a character in a story get shocked. And here you get a real shock, and you'll see. So, again, this week's all about surprise endings, isn't it? Or the last couple of class periods, all about surprise endings. I'll bet if you haven't read this short story, I bet you didn't see this one coming. A quick rundown of the plot. First, I'm going to give you two quiz questions. Quiz question number one is name the three things that he has inside his suitcase that he supposedly has Bibles in. Name the three items that are in there that you should be able to find in the text. Second question I'll ask here is what kind of sweater did Joy Holga wear? What was she wearing? Okay, make sure you get those into me by Tuesday at midnight. Okay, those are your quiz questions. But a quick rundown of the plot here. Manly Pointer. Okay, guys, we're all adults here. If you don't know the significance of a name like Manly Pointer, well, I don't know what to do with you, okay? So you just use your imagination, and given what kind of person he ends up being, you can see it's kind of important that you know that. Joy Holga is the daughter of a woman who lives in the rural South. Manly Pointer comes along as a Bible salesman, makes his pitch, and Mrs. Hopewell, okay, I guess she hopes everything will be well, I don't know, who loves cliches. Again, another middle-aged female figure. Another younger female figure. Both of them have problems, not just one, okay? Both of them have problems. And in this situation, Manly comes along. And here's the thing. When he comes to the door, Mrs. Hopewell, Mrs. Freeman also, Joy Holga, they all know who he is. They all know, well, I won't say they know who he is, but they know what he's up to, okay? I'm sorry, he's a Bible salesman, and he's going to put on that country shtick just as heavy as he can. Oh, I know you're a good Christian family, and I know that you love the Bible. Well, yeah, well, of course we do. Yes, we do. No, I don't need your Bible, but I have one. Of course, it was up in the attic, right? Somewhere covered with dust. Oh, you should have it in your living room. You should have it. It should be in every room in the house. You need my Bible. Is he really going to sell them Bibles, or is he just going to take their money and never give them a Bible, and they'll never hear from him again? You decide. They kind of know he's a phony baloney salesperson. They know this, or they should. But here's the deal. He tries one thing after another to try to get himself into that house. I mean, he's like trying flattery, and he's trying the religious angle, and he's trying this. But he keeps pushing buttons to see which button that Mrs. Hopewell will respond to. Well, he finally pushes the one button she does respond to, and that is, oh, there's just nothing like good country people. And then, boom, Hopewell, he hits the right button. Hopewell says, well, yes, I mean, the salt of the earth, these people. You just can't beat good country people. I was just saying the other day how good country people are, blah, 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 blah. So he's trying the religious angle, and she's not going to have any of that. He's trying the help me, I'm a poor, honest little gospel, Bible selling, not going to buy that. But when he does that one thing, and what this reveals is that we all have our button. Okay, that if you ask a great salesperson, he'll tell you this, that everybody has their button. And you got to sometimes keep pushing buttons to find out which one will buzz. Okay? It's like, will they go for that? Will they go for that? So let's say I'm trying to sell you a car and you don't really want to buy a car. And you know I'm a real crooked salesman, right? You just know it. You're like, Litton boy, he's a slimy car salesman. I don't like him. And I say things like, well, now, this car is a great investment. Well, at $40,000, it ought to be. Well, now, in addition to being a great investment, it's very safe. It's a safe car. I would expect it for $40,000. It ought to be. Well, it gets great gas mileage. Well, at $40,000, let me tell you something. The price of gas going to where it is, man, if it doesn't get good gas mileage, I don't know. So I'm going, that's not working. Let's see, the gas mileage, the safety, well, I will tell you this. You drive this car, and people are going to notice you. You're going to stand out. People are going to see you are one really stylish driver. Oh, you think so? Really? You should take it for a test drive. I think you look really great in that car. It looks great on you. Really? You think so? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe? Bing, bing, bing. I hit the right button, right? So as a salesperson, you're like, let's see. Ding, 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 ding. Got the right button, right? That's what they want. That's what they care about. So all of a sudden, Pointer does this in the text. He's finally finds, and he's going to try one thing after another thing after another thing after another thing till he gets what he wants, and then he's in the door and off and running and all this kind of stuff. All right, so everybody's suspicious of him at first, and they should be. Why aren't they? Well, they know, they kind of know, but they fool themselves. And I say this, why do they get fooled? Including Joy Holga, because here's the funny thing. Joy Holga, now, by the way, of course, she lost her leg in a shooting accident, etc. And she's, this unattractive, honestly, she's a deliberately unattractive person. She's the kind of person who, wears that ugly, horrible sweater, and she's just, doesn't take care of herself, doesn't want to look attractive. I mean, not that you have to, but there's some people who you just say, well, he cleans up okay, but he's still not that much to look at, right? But there are some people who are like, man, he doesn't even try. That dude doesn't even try. He's just wearing nasty, dirty outfits all the time. That's her. She's making a statement with how frumpy she is. She She wants to embarrass her mother by her appearance because she's trying to make a point, and that is appearances don't matter. So you shouldn't care what kind of stupid, goofy cowgirl shirt or whatever that or skirt or whatever I'm wearing. You shouldn't care about it. And so she's just deliberately being a jerk, and that's what she's doing. And so when Mrs. Hopewell and the others say, oh, well, come on in. Let's talk about good country people. Let's have dinner together and all this kind of stuff. And he finally wheedles his way into the house. She's the one who says, yeah, I know what you are, etc. She deliberately doesn't go by her given name of Joy. She goes by Hulga, which is the ugliest name. You see, she's trying to deliberately make her mother think what a horrible, wretched person she is to drive her mother crazy. And so, long story short, short story, the question is in the balance. Everybody knows this guy is suckering them, but some people are okay with being suckered because it validates, his sales pitch seems to validate their personal philosophy. Well, speaking of philosophy, that's what Holga has been studying, right? She has a PhD in philosophy, and she's going to college, and she's gotten these degrees. And honestly, what is she doing with her life? Pretty much nothing. Okay, and she doesn't believe in anything. She's an atheist, so she believes in completely nothing. Okay, and so the question is, can Manly Pointer, and again with the name, can Manly Pointer schmooze her too? And he begins to come on to her, and she knows that this is he's feeding her a line. He knows it. But what does she do? In her own imagination, she thinks, why, this uneducated, poor little country hick, he has no idea that he's dealing with a mature, educated woman like myself. And perhaps there's something I might offer him with his limited intellect. Perhaps he and I might enter into an arrangement or a relationships where I take pity on him and his small intellect, and in some manner expand his horizons like the woman of the world I am, right? This superiority that she has is where he gets her. And he plays right along with it. He plays just as dumb as can be. Oh, really? Ooh, you so smart? Oh, my goodness. A lot of book learning you've had. Oh, man, I hadn't had any book learning. I'm just a dumb kid, right? And they eventually decide to have a rendezvous in the barn. And in the barn, of course, the barn scene is the climactic scene, and of course, I won't say violent, but certainly shocking crescendo that we talked about that O'Connor loves to have in her stories, where he says that he wants her to go up in the loft with him. Now, notice he's got to go up in the loft. She's very skittish about this because, of course, how does she get up there? I'll help you up there, because, of course, her leg is missing, and she's got an artificial limb. And they get up into the loft, and he then starts talking to her about how he wants something from her. And of course, she thinks, oh, this innocent, naive boy, and I being the woman of a world that I am, shall I initiate him into the arts of romance, right? So she's got this superiority thing until we find out what he really wants, because I'll bet you as a reader were just like Joy Holga. All the way up to a given point in the short story, you're thinking, he's trying to seduce her. He wants sex. But he doesn't want sex. What does he want? He wants her leg. And this is a shocking thing to her because she's very sensitive about it, right? He at first he asks gently and says, "Let me see you take it on and off," right? Now this is so weird and creepy. If it didn't make you go, ugh, right? And of course, this is a more intimate thing in many ways than if he had tried to have sex with her, isn't it? Because this is the most sensitive, delicate, personal, private thing that she has about her. And she's extremely self-conscious about it. I mean, it would have been easier and better had he said, "Let's make out and do the deed." She was prepared for that. This she was not prepared for. She might have said, "Okay, I'll go all the way with you," but the idea of letting him see her leg is just you ask yourself how would they have if he hadn't, how would you hide the leg anyway? Well, that's just another physiological question. However, his fascination with the leg makes her just exceedingly self-conscious, like, oh my gosh, what is it? And so finally he takes it on, he puts it off. There's a scene there where he shows her what's in his case. His suitcase doesn't have any Bibles in it. Oh my goodness, what does it have? Well, sinful items. That's part of your quiz. You got to tell me what's in there. Sinful items that she's shocking. And suddenly she begins to react and say, "Wait a minute, you're a phony. You're not a Bible salesman. Why, look at the things in your case." And he says, "Well, yeah, stupid. What did you think? I mean, get real, lady. I've been a phony since I walked into your front door. What do you mean telling me I'm a phony? Of course I'm a phony. Did you not know that? Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to keep your leg. That's what I'm going to do." And she's shocked and stunned, like, "You can't do that." He goes, "Oh yeah, I got a glass eye off of a fellow once." He keeps these things. These are trophies for him. This is how weird this is. This person is psychologically just weird. He's obsessed with people's artificial body parts. He collects them. He's got to have it. He wants it as a trophy. And I guess later he shows people and says, "Look his leg I got off his girl." And this is way, way, way more significant to him than being able to have sex with her. I mean, this is like the victory he was looking for. But at the end, you're going, why is O'Connor dragging us through all this trauma? Why is she showing us all this? Well, he's a collector. She's shocked that he's a phony. Why is she shocked that he's a phony? Couldn't anybody tell this? Of course they could. For someone with a PhD in philosophy, she's not quite as bright as she thinks she is, let me tell you. And let me tell you another thing. I've had a PhD for over 30 years, and I've known hundreds and hundreds of people with PhDs. There's plenty of them that are pretty stupid, right? I mean, to be honest with you, there are many brilliant PhDs out there, but there's a bunch of them that you think, how in the world did you ever make it out of a cardboard box on your own? But be that as it may, having letters behind your name doesn't ensure that you have anything close to common sense, believe me, okay? She's just as susceptible as anybody else to being conned. A con man is a con man is a con man. And you, no matter who you are a potential mark. And if you think you're smarter than that con man, you better think twice. And of course, he shows her that. That's one thing that he shows. But what he also does is he leaves her pondering her fate. I mean, she's literally up in the hayloft. This is mean, but how's she going to get down with one leg? I don't know. She's probably got to holler for help. Well, that alone will be humiliating. That is, it's not nice that he left her up there in the loft all by herself, as a person with a disability. That's not nice. That's not funny. But it is funny that she's going to have to ask for help. And the first thing someone's going to ask is, how did you get up there and where is your leg? Somebody's going to have to admit that she got conned, because otherwise they're going to figure it out anyway. Okay. So she's got a bit of a comeuppance coming to her, right, about that. But here's the big line, of course, at the end that he makes is he's uneducated. She has not just an education, but a fabulous education. And she says, but I thought you were a good Christian. And he's like, no, lady, I'm a phony. Are you kidding me? What are you, crazy? I'm as phony as they get. He says, by the way, here you are, an atheist. He says, I've been believing in nothing all my life. I didn't need to get 3 degrees to believe in nothing. You could have saved yourself all that tuition and just gone straight to atheism. Because that's what I am, lady. In other words, not only are you no better than I am educationally, because your degrees didn't help you out of this jam, did they? I fooled you just like I fooled all the rest, so you're not that darn smart. But the second thing is, you spent all this time studying all this stuff, and it never led you to capital T truth anyway. It never led you to understand the world any better than an uneducated con man who's cynical and dark and who uses people. You are no better off than if you had never graduated, not college or graduate school, but even high school. Because not only did I outsmart you, morally, we're pretty much the same. I don't need to go to college for 12 years in order to become somebody who doesn't believe in anything and become a sour, cynical user. And neither did you. You just wasted all that tuition. So, it's a fascinating piece because it truly rocks her world. She really gets her world rocked. By the way, those two pictures here are from film versions of this. Neither one of them is all that good. Of this short story, one of them is just absolutely terrible. This one right here, the top one. This one I haven't seen all the way through. They're rather hard to find because they're independent kind of pieces. So I don't know if any of your groups are doing Good Country People or not, but you cannot do worse than these. Okay, let me just tell you something. But I mean, so there's a great piece to be done here. But I think key to all of this is how this story is, in some sense, a critique of traditional values and Bible beliefs and the nostalgia about it. Because the Hopewells are like, well, I guess I believe in religion, but I don't really know. But I tell you what, I'm not gonna say I don't, because it's not socially acceptable to do that. And there's this love of how good country people used to be, and that's what we need today, and this nostalgic romanticizing of the past and how people used to be good and all this kind of stuff. And Hopewell allows herself to be fooled by a con man into buying a phony Bible, which she's never going to receive, and she gives him money for it, and he's going to rip her off. But we allow ourselves to be fooled by our prejudices. And I don't mean necessarily racial prejudices, but our biases, if you will, that we like a certain thing, so we're willing to I guess, put our brain on a shelf for the time being because we're just so predisposed to it. And that's something that all of us are subject to. But with the South, it's this nostalgia about how people used to be honest and good and salt of the earth and never had to lock their doors. And now look at them, and what we need is to get back to that kind of thing. Well, I'm not sure that was ever really as perfect a world as it's said. But it's also a story about trust, belief, and faith, and what we choose to trust, I think. Does our vanity and pride blind us? Now, of course, O'Connor was a person of sincere and devout faith, and a very educated person at that. And Joy Holga is an educated person as a character, and a person of no faith. And I don't think that O'Connor is beating up on Joy Holga for not having Christian faith, but I do think what she's saying is, look, you know, if your purpose in getting an education is to arrive at some degree of enlightenment, and you get to the end of the rainbow and all you believe is nothingness, you could have saved yourself an awful lot of effort. It's one thing to say, well, I don't have all the answers, but I think I'm better equipped to answer some of life's deeper questions than I was before I got. But at the end of her rainbow, there's nothing. It's not just a pot of gold. There's nothing there, right? Because she doesn't believe in anything. And here's the thing. The other thing that you have to bear in mind is, it is the fact that her personality is such that she uses her education as a sort of a stick to make other people feel bad and to make her feel superior. You get the sense that she did not pursue her degrees to become an enlightened person. She pursued her degrees in order to separate herself from what she believed were the inferior people around her. Because she's superior. I have an education. These stupid backward hicks that in this stupid town I grew up in. Well, Pointer has a point, right? He has a point. And the point is, you got to the end, and because you pursued an education for the wrong purposes and with the wrong kind of disposition, if you will, here you are. You're basically wasted your time because you didn't pursue truth. You pursued vanity. And that's an easy thing to knock out from under you very easily. So anyway, okay, so that gives you a flavor of that. I love O'Connor. I think she's got fantastic. Another one that you might want to read, A Good Man is Hard to Find. That's a really dark one. You have to have a dark and kind of twisted sense of humor to like that one, because people die and it's funny. I'm sorry, but it really is. And Everything That Rises Must Converge, and their whole short stories. Do yourself a favor and read a couple more. They're really, really great. And she's a really fantastic writer. I can't say that she's an overlooked writer because people just absolutely adore her. And she's worthy of your time and attention. We're going to the quiz. Please turn it in by Tuesday at midnight, and I'm not going to have a discussion this week. Okay, we're going to give you a little bit of a break, not having to contribute to the discussion. Just get that in, and we'll pick up with our next readings on Thursday. Thanks.